Okay, so hello and welcome back to another Unity tutorial. In this one we're going to be continuing with the FPS series. We're going to be doing damage numbers on hits so that you can see, how much damage you're doing. Because I could have the enemies health number above them, but I think it'd be too much screen clutter. So it'd be better to have the health bar there just to show, what percentage of health they're on. And then when you deal damage, you can see how much you're dealing. It's up to you to add this or not. Obviously, when you're making a game, there's certain features other games of the same genre will have and won't have, so it's up to you. But we're going to do damage numbers, so we'll be spawning in text that is different depending on how much damage we've dealt with the hit. And then later on, if we end up having damage resistance, so our shot is meant to deal 10 damage, but it ends up dealing 5, then it'll still say 5, so we know that it's done the reduced damage. And obviously, you can expand upon this and make it so if you crit, if you do a critical strike on a head, maybe it'll be a different color or different font or something like that, whatever you want. So I want to start off by thanking my donators on Patreon. Thanks to Michael, Paul Robinson, Phil Ball, and Wesley. If anyone else would like to help support the channel and community, links in the description below. Getting through that pretty quickly. I got it memorized very well now. So where we left off, it was quite a while ago. It was sometime in December, maybe mid-December. So what we had ammo working. So for example, if I try shooting, it won't work because I got no ammo. Ignoring the text at the bottom left because that was I made that text when we did one type of ammo, but then obviously different guns use different ammo. So I've kind of changed that now. So the text currently isn't linked to anything. It's just going to stick saying ammo equals 50. But in a video where we start working on the UI properly, then we'll fix the ammo count to have the 3 different types of ammo. So currently we've got light, which is this. Now we can shoot with our pistol. We've got medium. Now our sniper, I know it doesn't look like a sniper. I'll do modeling at some point as well. But the point is that doesn't work because we need heavy, which is this. Bang, 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 bang. So that works. Obviously there's a crates which will make destructible instead of disappearing, but it all works, which is good. Currently don't have a way to actually get out of this. Well, you can press escape to free the cursor anyway. So what do we want to do? We want to have damage text. Now quickly, I'll just show this is what we're going to be making. I'm using the same method that I've got in my game. So if we press play, for example, here are the enemies over here, these capsules that I still need to make proper enemies. So if I, for example, did a fire spell, it deals fire damage, so you see that 10. And if I apply a damage over time by taking that talent, then after it's done the 10, it'll then tick for 2, 2, 2, 2. And then, for example, if I picked up the bow and arrow, if I equip the bow, I've got the fire arrow, so it'll deal physical damage, which is grey, then it'll do red text for the damage over time afterwards. Whereas if I was just using basic arrows, it would deal just 13 physical there. And the damage on my bow is dependent on how much I pull it. So if I don't pull it a lot, it'll only do 7 damage. So that's the system we're going to try making. So let's put this away. Okay, so to start off, we'll go to our scene, and we need to make some object to spawn on the enemy for the text. So what we'll do is we'll make an empty game object, and we'll probably use TextMesh Pro. I think that's already in here. Nice. So we've got TextMesh Pro text, which is the UI text. No, sorry. In UI, you've got TextMesh Pro text, which is UI. But if you go to 3D object, there's also TextMesh Pro text. But this, I have to import something. Okay, if you haven't already, just get TextMesh Pro because we're going to be using that. So we want to import this. Have we done everything? Yeah. So we've got TextMesh Pro text, which, as you see, is text, but it's in the scene as a physical mesh. Obviously, it's flat and whatever. I don't know if you can actually scale it now. It's got no depth. But the point is, it's text in the scene. So it's like world space UI, but it doesn't need a canvas, which is the benefit. So we don't need to have a canvas to spawn this all on. And as you see, it's in the world. If we press play, we can actually walk around it. So we want that to be the case, kind of, with our UI. So now that we've got this sample text, we need to write some code for it. So what do we need? We need mesh renderer, yep, TextMesh Pro, the script here. This is a different version than the one I'm using, but it's fine. I don't know if this is an older or a newer version, to be honest, on my game, but it still works the same way. So we'll have some text, 50, right? It's going to say we're doing 50 damage. Now, just to make it all line up from where we spawn it, we'll just center it all. And that's the only thing we need to change with the actual text script like that. Now, one thing is when this number appears from the enemy, we want it to face the player. We don't want to like damage an enemy from our side and we see it like this. We want to have it always facing the player. Now, you'll notice we already have the player's health bar always facing the player because we wrote a script for it called Billboard UI or whatever I called it. So if we go to this text mesh pro text, let's call it floating damage text. Let's go into the scene view. Okay, so one thing we can do is we can go to the rect tool and scale it down. Now, you should probably turn on auto size for this. So let's say, for example, it's spawning from this enemy. So it's around here. It's basically where it would spawn around here. Now it's a bit big, so make the minimum size. Go with like 1. So that's the minimum. So maybe it'll spawn there. 50, right? That's around the right size. You just need to tweak to get your size right. And I might add an outline just to make it a bit more obvious so we can see it better. But as I said, this is all up to you for design. I'm not going to worry too much about design. So we've got that sorted for the text. We need to write, well, we can already attach the, let's just minimize all this, the Billboard UI. Now, just from attaching that script that we've already written, what we can do is now, we can move around the scene where this thing's taken damage, and we'll be able to see it like flat on from all angles, so it really doesn't matter where we are, right? It's good, that's the way we want it. So it's always flat on to us, you can easily read the number. So that's part of it done. Now, the next thing we want to write an actual, script for it. So let's add a script. We'll call it damage text, like so. Let's go put it in our scripts folder. Go to scripts and open damage text. So this damage text, it needs to have a method that we can call from our damage script to basically tell it what to set the text to. So we first of all need on the damage text, we want to be using TM-Pro, which is the Text Mesh Pro library. Let's just, using TM-Pro. Okay. So what do we want here? Well, we want to basically have a float for how long before we destroy the object. So destroy time. We want a vector free as our offset. So because what will happen by default is it'll spawn it at the center of the enemy, but we want to have a certain amount up that will go. Then we'll have we don't need it. Well, yeah, we'll have a color. I'll zoom in. Sorry, some people might want this to be zoomed in. Called damage color. I'm gonna spell it the English way. Sorry. Okay, so then we'll also be able to store a text mesh pro, which is the script for our text. So damage text. Now the reason we're storing that privately is because it's on this object, so we can just get it. So in the awake function, we can just say damage text is equal to get component text mesh pro, like so. And the transform.local position of this object will take whatever our current position is and add the offset to it, because with offsets you add them, you don't set them. Well, you can set them, but adding them makes more sense because we might add some more stuff to it. We might add a randomized thing to make it move around a little bit. Then we also want to say destroy game object. Now by default, when you destroy a game object, it'll be instant, but there's an optional parameter, float time, t. I'm guessing t means time in this case. And what that does is it lets us say, how long before we destroy the object. So we'll say we want to destroy this game object after destroy time. Okay, so just from doing that, we can. We need to also write our other function. We'll do it now. So public void. This is what we're going to call from our damage script. Init elize. I think the English way is with an se. I don't think I've actually looked it up before. There's no correct way apparently. It's whether it's ze or se, but I'm going to go with se. And we'll just take in the int damage value. Now I'm not sure if I've made damage floats or integers. I think I've gone with integers, so yeah, it'll be fine. Damage value. We can just cast it to an int anyway if we wanted to, if we need to. And we'll just say damage text is equal to damage value, but because it's a integer and we're trying to set a string to an integer, it'll tell you need to treat it as a string, so we can say .toString. Okay, so this is basically saying at the start, we'll get our text mesh component and add an offset to us. And then when we initialize it from somewhere else, we can set the actual text. So that's pretty simple. So we can minimize that and just give it a second to compile. Go to the floating damage text, and we've got the script on here, I think. Damage text. So we want a destroy time, so maybe 2 seconds, an offset, maybe 2, or we can tweak these, and a damage color of, well, currently we're going with white for the text, so we'll go with white, make sure the alpha's cranked up, because that's the color it's going to set it to. And now, if we delete this, sorry, not delete this, we don't delete it, you want to save it as a prefab, because it's something we're going to be spawning in. So floating damage text is a prefab, and now all we need is to delete it, because we've got it saved, and go to the script where we do damage. So when we take damage in the enemy health script, we say minus equals the damage, so we're going to subtract the damage. So we want to also, when we subtract the damage, well, first of all, we need to store on here we store a game object to spawn. It's a prefab, so damage text prefab. We're going to store that on here on the enemy health, and then when we deal damage, we want to say we want to spawn this and set the damage. So you can actually do that all in one line, because we only need to do one thing with it. So we can just say instantiate. So we're going to spawn in the prefab, what I call it, damage text prefab. We're going to spawn that in at our current position where the enemy is, because the offset is handled inside the class, at our quaternion.identity for the rotation. And then we can also just say at the end, get component damage text. And now that we've got that, we can actually still in the same line, because we're just going to call one function, dot initialize. No, sorry, brackets, dot initialize damage value. So damage. Now, obviously, you could argue this is a bit messy having it in one line. It's obviously the fastest way to do it is just in one line. We could store the reference and do that. So for example, we could instantiate and don't get component and store that as a variable. Then we can get component, and then we could even just initialize. Like, there's so many different ways to write this line in multiple lines to spread it out. But for example, if you wanted to do multiple things in this script or have reference, you would want to store it. But because we don't need a reference, we can just get it and do it and then dispose of it. It's probably more efficient to do it like this. We don't need to waste any memory storing reference to this, because we're going to get rid of it anyway. So that's good. Now, if we go to this enemy, which is a prefab, and because the enemy is a prefab, if we reference the other prefab, so you'll see on here we need a game object for the damage text, so assets, damage, floating damage text. If we press apply, then this one will have it too. So one thing at the moment is the text will just appear. It won't look very cool, but the point is if we get our light... So one problem is with this project, I made the preload scene, which you have to start from. I might switch that up a little bit, because certain things like the inventory manager should just be in every scene. It doesn't need to persist across, because if you put an inventory manager in each scene, the benefit is that you can test from any scene. But yeah, if we pick that up now and start shooting, 14, and it goes after a few seconds, 13, 16, 14, because remember I made it deal like a range of damage. Now if I pick up this and take the other gun, 60, 60, 60. Now one thing obviously is it lasts too long, and the other thing is it's like kind of boring. So one thing we can do quite quickly is just get the text, damage text, and you can go and add an animator to this. Animator. Then we can go to the animation and create a new thing called floating damage text. And all we want to do is we want to, at the start, let's go to record. If we put it in record mode, it means that whatever changes we make will be, saved as an animation keyframe. So we want to say at the start, we will perhaps scale it down. Oops, sorry, we don't actually want to scale it down. So just a little bit. And then we go in a bit, scale it back up to 1. And then over here, scale it down to 0. And now if we go here and we press play, it goes up and down. I think that entire thing's a bit too slow, so we can select all the keyframes and drag this little line here, and it basically scales the animation down to here. So now if we go to start, we go ba-doink, 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 whatever. And then that's the only thing you only really need to make it do that, to be honest. I'm happy with that for now, so just stop the animation recording. And as you see on here, the damage text actually has the animation and the animator set up. Just to make sure the animation clip that it made with it doesn't have loop time, because otherwise at the end it will start doing it again, which you don't want to do. Now this animation is actually only, how many seconds? It's only just less than half a frame. Now technically you don't have to destroy it the second it ends. We could actually, what we could do is in our script we could grab the length of the clip and then destroy it after that amount of time. That would be like the efficient way to do it, I guess, like the to get it exactly. No, to get it exact, sorry. And then one other thing we'll do in the future, because we're making FPS and we might be spawning some objects in, is to make a pooling system, which is where instead of instantiating anything you fire, you actually have a pool where you instantiate maybe 10 or 20 at the start. And then when you start shooting, you just set those objects active, use them, and when you're done, you don't destroy them, you just set them deactive and put them back. So that's an efficient way, but we don't need to worry about efficiency necessarily right now. So let's just quickly make a folder for animation. Just put that in there. It's the only animation right now. We can sort that later. And theoretically now that should work if we press play. But as I said, we should... Oops, I keep starting from here. I will sort that out. It would be easier to test if I didn't. But yeah, if we go to this text, this damage text, and just reduce the time from 2 seconds. We don't even need like 0.5 seconds now, because it lasts for 30 frames, which is... Yeah, actually we'll be fine with that. Assuming that the game's 60 FPS. Oh, let's also delete this from the supply and then delete. Okay. Press play and pick this up and shoot. 14, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12. Oh, wait, no, the damage is based on distance. Yeah, I forgot I made that. Oh, I'm out of ammo. Okay. I was a bit confused at why it wasn't working. Bang, 60. Okay, so that works. I don't think there's anything else to really do. One thing I've seen other people do, which is how I have it in mine, is in here. We also take in another vector free for the... So this is the end of the thing. We're going to take in a vector free for like a randomization. So like each one that spawns is slightly different. So we can just say randomize offset. And what we'll do is when we spawn it, after we've added the offset, we'll then transform dot position, local position plus equals, and we want to form a vector free where we will then open curly brackets and space it out. So I'm gonna go down here. So on the first line we'll say random.range, and we want to pick between the randomize offset.x to the minus randomize offset.x to randomize offset.x, because that'll pick a random value between, if that was 0.1, negative 0.1 and 0.1. Then we can just say comma, and we'll do the second value. So this is the y, so range minus randomize offset.y, randomize offset.y, and then random.range minus randomize offset.z, comma, randomize offset.z. And we can actually just end that there, so let's put that all back to there. Where did I go wrong here? Make sure you got brackets in your right places. Need 2 at the end, so that closes off the vector free creation. And this random.range is a function, so that's where the function is to calculate that and that and that, and we've added that on. So now if we go back, text. Let's just tweak some values to make them nicer. So we'll go with 1.5 because I felt like that was a bit too high. And the intensity, I don't know, 0.5 and then 0.1. So let's go back and play. Let's see how our final result is. So if we pick up this and we start shooting, bang, 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 it goes around everywhere. Obviously, with a gun like this, where I can hold down for like rapid fire, it kinda, there's too many things there, but there's the point. You can deal damage and it works. And obviously it doesn't show you the damage when you shoot a box like that because they just instantly die. You could add that in if you wanted to, but the point is it's fine. So yeah, if you did actually want to do that for the boxes, the quick way you do it is you would go to your like destroying one hit script or whatever I called it. It's been a while. I don't actually know where I would have put that. Here it is. So then you would just have a thing to like instantiate the thing and set the damage to damage. So that's how you do that. But anyway, yeah, I hope you like this video. We're back to doing the series a bit every like few days maybe. Feel free to leave your suggestions in the comments below. The things I plan on doing is updating the UI, making it so you can pick up and drop weapons, adding like grenades, scoping as well. So there's quite a few things to keep going with, but obviously this was one that people had asked for. So I am glad that that is over with now because it's not that fun, isn't it? Just adding damage numbers. We want to actually start adding gameplay stuff, but I think it looks nice to have. But anyway, if you haven't already, obviously leave a like and subscribe if you want to. Join the Discord server if you haven't already. But apart from that, thanks for watching and goodbye.